Welcome back, everybody, to Review MASH. We're diving deep into Factorio, space age.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a hot topic.
It really is. It seems like all the Factorio fans out there are going crazy for it.
For good reason.
Absolutely.
Hmm?
So much to talk about.
Yeah?
You know what I was thinking about the other day? I wish I could apply that the factory must grow to my real life,
Uh-huh.
like doing laundry with conveyor belts
Yeah.
and a robot arm that could put away all the dishes.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Right. No more weekend cleaning marathons.
Weekends free for Factorio.
Uh-huh. Exactly. But, all right, let's talk about Factorio, space age. We've got a ton of reviews and opinions to dig into and a whole new galaxy to explore.
Yeah, it seems like everyone's super excited about this DLC, and it launched just recently, October 21st.
That's right. And from what we've gathered, this isn't just some small add-on. It's a full-blown expansion pack.
Oh, yeah. It's huge.
Huge. We're looking at a $35 price tag, a 5.54 gigabyte download, so make sure you've got the space on your hard drive.
Uh-huh. That's right.
And, of course, it's developed and published by the same awesome folks who brought us the original Factorio Woob Software Ltd.
That's right, so you know it's going to be good.
Exactly. They've got that reputation for deep mechanics and that attention to detail that Factorio fans love.
And they've really brought that same energy to this expansion.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. In the base game, the story, the narrative was pretty minimal.
Yeah, it was really just kind of implied.
Right. It was all about you creating your own story.
Uh-huh.
But is that still the case in Space Age? What's the deal with the lore and the world building?
Well, that's one of the really cool things about this expansion. They've actually fleshed out the world a lot more.
Really?
Yeah, each planet has its own little backstory and environmental quirks.
Oh, wow.
They've even got alien life forms.
No way. Okay, so we're not just plopping down factories on some boring old rocks anymore.
Nope. It's a whole new level of world building.
That's awesome. Which planet is everyone freaking out about?
Well, there's this one called Fulgora. It's a deserted planet, but it's got these really cool alien ruins. And the big thing about Fulgora is that you've got to use this unique recycling mechanic. So you're not just mining resources, you're deconstructing and repurposing everything.
That's interesting. So it's even more of a resource management challenge than the base game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You've got to squeeze every last drock out of those materials.
Classic Factorio.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the other planets? Any other standouts?
Definitely. Globa is generating a lot of buzz. It's a fungus-infested planet. And get this, it's got these little aliens that look like, well, huggers.
Huggers? Like what? Those little stuffed animals?
Uh-huh. Yeah, kind of. But I wouldn't want to get too close. And the real challenge on Globa is that they've introduced perishable ingredients.
Perishable ingredients? Like what? Food that goes bad?
Exactly. So now you've got to worry about spoilage on top of everything else.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole new layer of complexity to the farming aspect of the game.
I can see that. It's not just about producing as much as possible anymore. You've got to manage your inventory and make sure nothing goes to waste.
That's right. It's all about finding that balance.
Okay, I'm sold. Gleba sounds amazing. What else?
Well, how about a classic volcanic world? Volcanus. Rich in metal, as you'd expect, but absolutely no water.
Talk about a resource management nightmare. I mean, water is essential for, like, everything in Factorio, right?
Yep. So it'll be really interesting to see what kind of creative solutions players come up with.
Oh, I bet. It's like those brain teaser puzzles where you got to figure out how to make something out of nothing.
Exactly. It's Factorio at its best.
Okay, last one, I promise. Any other planets that are blowing people's minds?
All right, this one's cool. A Cullo, a frozen ocean planet covered in liquid ammonia.
Whoa, that sounds intense.
Yeah, it's visually stunning, and it presents a really unique challenge. You've got to keep all your buildings heated all the time because of the extreme cold.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. So your energy production becomes even more crucial.
Exactly. It's another layer of complexity on top of everything else.
Okay, so we've got scorching volcanoes, frozen wastelands, fungus-covered planets with huggers. It sounds like Woob Software went all out with the environmental diversity.
They really did. It's a whole new galaxy to explore.
But how does all this planet hopping affect the actual gameplay? I mean, are we building giant spaceships or teleporting materials across the solar system?
Well, it's not quite that sci-fi.
Okay.
Think of it more like a really, really complex logistics network. You build these space platforms that act as your cargo ships, moving stuff between your bases on different planets.
So we're still laying down those satisfying conveyor belts, but now on a cosmic scale.
Exactly. And those platforms, they become the backbone of your interplanetary empire. They're moving materials, technology, and even research packs back and forth.
Oh, wow. So you're not just managing one factory anymore. You're coordinating production across 5 different planets.
That's right. And that's where the real challenge lies.
Oh, man. I can already see the spaghetti of space belt stretching across the solar system.
Oh, yeah, it gets pretty wild. It's classic Factorio, but amplified.
Amplified is right. It sounds amazing, but also kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, Factorio already had a bit of a reputation for being, a brain burner.
Uh-huh, a little bit.
Has Woob software done anything to make this galactic leap a little less overwhelming?
Actually, yeah, a lot of the reviews are praising the quality of life improvements they've made.
Oh, like what?
Well, for example, you don't need yellow and purple science packs to build a rocket silo anymore.
Oh, thank goodness. Those things were such a grind in the base game.
I know, right?
It felt like I was spending half my time just trying to get those things researched.
Yeah, and that's not all. Remember those rocket control units?
Oh, don't even get me started on those. Those were a nightmare to craft.
Gone. Replaced with processing units, which are way easier to produce.
That's amazing. So they've streamlined some of those really tedious parts of the game.
Exactly. It seems like they really listened to the players and wanted to make reaching space a little less painful.
That's great news. Especially for those of us who just want to get to the fun part, building those massive interplanetary factories.
Exactly. The grand strategy.
But they haven't just taken things away, right? What about new content? New toys to play with?
Oh, there's plenty of that too. Let's start with the Big Driller, everyone's new favorite toy.
The big driller. Okay, tell me more.
It replaces the electric mining drill, so you know it's got to be good. Apparently, it's this massive, beastly machine that can tear through anything.
Oh man, I can already picture myself carving out huge craters with that thing.
And with 5 new planets to mine, you're going to need all the drilling power you can get.
That's for sure. What else is new?
Well, there are these new activities called Jelly Nut and Yumiko farming, and they're not just about gathering resources.
Wow.
They add this whole new dimension to the gameplay with unique challenges and rewards.
Okay, you've got to elaborate on that. What are these jelly nuts and yumikos? Are they like space-age biofuel or some kind of alien delicacy?
Good question. Some of the reviews hinted at potential dangers involved in cultivating these plants, but they didn't go into too much detail.
Dangers. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Are they going to explode if you don't harvest them at the right time? Or maybe attract some nasty alien critters?
Who knows? That's part of the fun of exploring a new expansion. It wouldn't be Factorio without a little risk and excitement.
You're right about that. It's all about finding that perfect balance between efficiency and chaos.
And speaking of balance, let's talk about the research tree.
Ooh, yes, the research tree. Always a crucial part of Factorio.
Definitely. And they've made some interesting changes. Each planet now has its own unique science pack that you have to produce.
Oh, wow. So you can't just specialize on one planet and research everything from there.
Nope. You've got to ship those science packs back to your home base, which means establishing trade routes and coordinating production across your entire interplanetary empire.
Man, it's like a giant interconnected puzzle.
It is. And that's where the real satisfaction of Factorio comes in. It's all about finding those elegant solutions to complex problems.
I love that feeling, that aha moment when everything clicks into place and your factory is humming along like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly. And it sounds like Space Age takes that feeling to a whole new level.
Okay, so we've got new planets, new mechanics, new challenges. But does it still feel like Factorio?
That's the big question, right? And from what we've seen in the reviews, it's definitely an evolution, not a revolution.
Okay.
The core gameplay loop, that sense of building and automating and optimizing, is still at the heart of the expansion.
Yeah.
But now it's just bigger, more complex, more spacely.
I guess that makes sense. You don't want to alienate your existing fan base, but you also want to offer something new and exciting.
Exactly. It's a tough balance to strike, but it sounds like Woob Software has nailed it.
The reviews seem to agree. What's the general consensus out there?
Overwhelmingly positive. People are loving it. Many reviewers are calling it the perfect continuation of the Factorio formula.
That's what we love to hear. It's not just about adding more of the same. It's about expanding the horizons of the game and giving players new reasons to get addicted.
Absolutely, and I think that's what makes a good expansion pack. It's not just about adding more content, it's about adding more depth.
More depth, I like that. So it's not all sunshine and rocket launches, though, right? What are some of the challenges or concerns that players have raised?
Well, one thing that comes up a lot is the complexity. Factorio was already a complex game, and Space Age definitely ramps it up.
I can see that. Managing one planet was hard enough, but now we're juggling 5 different planets, each with its own unique resources and challenges.
Right, and some reviewers have also expressed concern about the changes to established gameplay loops.
Like what?
Well, for example, they've removed filter inserters.
Oh, wow, really? Those were like a staple of Factorio.
I know. So, veteran players who spent hundreds of hours perfecting their strategies might need to rethink their approach.
I bet. Change can be hard, especially when you've already mastered a system. But I guess that's also part of the appeal of a new expansion pack. It forces you to learn new things and step outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. It keeps the game fresh and engaging.
And speaking of fresh and engaging, let's talk about the visuals and technical aspects. Factorio's always been praised for its clean aesthetic and its impressive performance, even on low-end systems.
Right. But with this expansion, there's a lot more going on. More planets, more resources, more moving parts.
Yeah, does it still run smoothly?
Well, from what we've read, Woob Software has done an amazing job of optimization.
Really?
Yeah, reviews are consistently praising the game's smooth frame rate and fast loading times, even on less powerful systems.
That's fantastic. It's always frustrating when a new expansion sacrifices performance for the sake of new features.
For sure. And get this, they've even made significant improvements to the Steam Deck version.
Wow. So they're really making sure that everyone can experience Space Age no matter what hardware they're using.
Exactly. Accessibility is key.
I love that. Okay, I have to ask about the music. I've heard nothing but praise for the soundtrack. They brought in a new composer for this expansion, Peter Wadzar, and it seems like he's really knocked it out of the park.
Oh, he has. Each planet has its own unique theme music that really sets the mood and atmosphere.
Okay, give me an example. How does the music enhance a planet like, say, Volcanus? I'm picturing something intense, maybe a little bit foreboding.
You're not far off. One reviewer described the Volcanus soundtrack as having an almost fantasy-inspired feel.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just your typical industrial sci-fi soundtrack.
Nope. It's got this epic orchestral sound, maybe with a touch of synth thrown in.
I love that. It's like they're taking this familiar industrial setting and adding this layer of myth and grandeur.
Yeah. And then you have a planet like Globa, which is all about exploration and discovery. The music there is much more upbeat and adventurous.
Oh, I can imagine. It's got that sense of wonder and excitement, pushing you to explore further.
Exactly. And it seems like Woob Software really put a lot of thought into how the music complements the gameplay.
So it's not just background noise. It's an integral part of the experience.
That's right. They added 5 new tracks for the expansion, but they also kept the original soundtrack for Novice, the starting planet.
Oh, that's a nice touch. So it's a mix of the familiar and the new.
Exactly. It's like they're acknowledging the legacy of the base game, but also embracing the bold new direction of the expansion.
I like that. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the good. We've talked about the potentially overwhelming. But are there any downsides? Any major criticisms from the community?
Well, like we mentioned before, some players are concerned about the increased complexity.
Yeah, that's understandable. Factorio was already known for being a challenging game.
It was. And Space Age doesn't hold your hand at all. It's very much a figure-it-out-yourself kind of experience.
So it's not for the faint of heart. You've got to be willing to experiment and problem solve.
Absolutely. But for those who enjoy that kind of challenge, Space Age will be a dream come true.
Oh, I bet. And then there's the whole adaptation issue. Veteran players who spent hundreds of hours mastering the base game, they might need to rethink their strategies.
That's right. Some of the changes, like the removal of filter inserters, could require a significant adjustment to their workflows.
It's like learning a whole new language.
In a way, yeah. And a few reviewers also mentioned the increased load times and larger save files.
Oh yeah, that makes sense with all the new content and mechanics.
It does, but it's something to keep in mind if you're playing on an older system.
Okay, so it's not all perfect. But overall, it sounds like the reception has been very positive.
Oh, incredibly positive. The general consensus seems to be that Factorio, Space Age, is a worthy successor to the base game. It expands upon the core gameplay while adding a whole new layer of depth and complexity.
And most importantly, it sounds like it's still fun.
Oh yeah, tons of fun. It's Factorio, but bigger, bolder, and more challenging than ever before.
You know, it's actually quite inspiring to see a developer like Woob Software put so much care and attention into an expansion pack.
It is. They could have easily just slapped on a few new planets and called it a day.
Right. But they didn't. They really thought about how to create a truly meaningful and expansive experience.
And that's what makes this expansion so special.
Like they're saying, hey, we're not just here to make a quick buck. We're here to create something truly special.
Exactly. And that's a really refreshing attitude to see in the gaming industry these days.
Okay, so we've talked about the good, the bad, and the potentially overwhelming. But before we wrap up this part of our review, Mash, there's one question I can't shake.
Oh, what's that?
What if? What if the principles of automation and optimization that we see in Factorio, what if we could apply those to real-world problems?
Whoa, that's a deep one.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're facing some pretty serious challenges as a species. Climate change, resource scarcity, overpopulation. What if we could approach those problems with the same kind of systematic thinking that we use in Factorio?
You know, it's funny you should say that. Because playing Space Age, I've been thinking about that a lot myself.
Yeah.
It's like, in Factorio, you have to think long term. You can't just exploit a planet's resources and move on. You have to plan for the future and consider the impact your actions will have on the environment.
It's like a sustainability simulator in a way.
Right. And I think there's a lot we can learn from that.
I mean, imagine if we could optimize our energy production the way we optimize our power grids in Factorio.
Or manage our resources with the same level of efficiency and foresight.
It's a bit of a utopian dream, I know.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be amazing if we could take some of those problem-solving skills we honed in Factorio and apply them to the real world?
It would. But, you know, even if we never quite reach that level of optimization in real life, I think there's still value in the way Factorio makes us think about systems and the interconnectedness of things.
It's like a training ground for problem-solving on a massive scale.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe some of those skills will translate into real-world solutions someday.
I like the way you think. But for now, I think we've mined enough insights from this deep dive into Factorio. Space Age.
It has been a fascinating journey.
It really has. From alien huggers to space platforms to the potential real-world applications of factory automation, we've covered a lot of ground.
And I think our listeners are ready to jump in and start building their own interplanetary empires.
I know I am. And if you are too, be sure to share your experiences, strategies, and maybe even some blueprint designs for tackling the new challenges. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And if you have any suggestions for future Review Mash episodes, be sure to let us know in the comments. We're always on the lookout for new games and topics to explore.
So until next time, keep on automating, keep on optimizing, and remember, the factory must grow.